Well, hello, welcome again to a reading through of the Apology of Socrates by Plato. And I got up to chapter 32, which in the numbering system is 40c4. So this is the second section where Socrates is addressing those who had tried to acquit him, and he's going to talk about different options about what death could possibly bring. It's an interesting section in its own right. So he begins, en no somen de kaiteidi hos pole elpis estin agathon auto enai. So it's, let us consider also in the following way how there is much hope that it, now the it I think has to refer back to we've seen before, but it comes in the next line again, tethnanai, to death, how it is a good thing. So let us reflect also in the following way how there is much hope that it, death, is agathon, is a noble thing or a good thing. Duoin ga thartaron estin tethnanai, for death, again, it's the articular infinitive here. Death is one of two things. So this is a dual genitive. So of two things, death is one of two of them. Ega hoyon maiden enai maidi aistesin maiden mian maidenos ekain ton tethniota. For either, now again we have to go here, the dead man is like to nothing, I think it must mean, nor to have any perception of anything. So we get all these double negatives. Greek says no perception of nothing, but we would say any perception of anything. A kata legomena metabole tis tunkane usa kai metoikesis te psuke tu topu tu enthendi es elon topon. Or, according to the things having been said, in other words, as we are told, that there is a certain metabole, a certain change of place or transference happens to take place. And a metoikesis, a migration for the soul from this place into another place. This is probably based a lot on Orphic teachings or Orphism. I'll leave it to the commentators to discuss it in more detail. Kai 80 day made a mere aesthesis estin al hoion hupnos epedan tis kathudon made honor den hora. Thou mession kurdos an ie hothanatos. And then it breaks off. So it's a very long sentence. I'll just pause it there. And if indeed there is no perception, but like a dream, perhaps it is like a dream, whenever a certain person sleeping sees nothing, not even a dream honor. So if all that, then death would be an amazing benefit or boon. So if death is a state of complete lack of any perception, then he says death would be a great boon. For I would think that tina ek lexamenon deoi tautain nukta enho huto katedathen hosti meda honor idain kaitas alas nuktas te kai hemeras tas tu biu tu hiautu antiparathenta taute te nukti deoi skepsamenon apain posanam amenon kai hedion hemeros kai nuktas tautes tes nuktes bebioken en to hia tu bio, oimai an me hoti idioten tina, alla ton megon basilia, u arithmetus an hurein auton tautas prostas, allas hemeras kai nuktas. I'll just finish it off. Eun toi uton hothanatos estin, kerdos ego ge lego. So coming back to here where I stopped here. So he says that if it was like a dream that you don't perceive anything, then I think it would be a great boon, a wonderful boon. I would then think that if it was necessary, you've got to go down to the, you've got to go down to DA. If it was necessary for someone having chosen this or that, what we would say that night, the Greek says this night, so that night in which he slept in such that, so it's huto plus hosti, thus so as not to see a dream. Now this verb is from, this is an aorist from kata darthano. If you're looking it up, it means to sleep, so this is just the aorist here. So, but I think that if it was necessary for someone having chosen that night in which they slept thus, so as not to see a dream, and after the dioi, and him comparing it, you're going to go down to here, I think, anti-parathenta, and comparing it with all the other nights and days, the ones of his own life. So if it was necessary for him, looking carefully at this, to say how many days and nights he had lived in his life, so he, and we get two adverbs here. They're going with the main verb here. So he had lived in his life better and more sweetly. We get a comparative genitive, than this night. I would think that me hoti, not only someone who was a private citizen, but the great king, and auton I take with that there, the great king himself would find those days easily numbered, numbered, this is a compound adjective here, those days easily numbered in comparison with the other days and nights. If therefore death is thus, I indeed say it is a boon, it is a gain. Now that's a tricky bit there, I might just quickly go back through that again. So from here, so I would think that if it was necessary for someone having chosen that night in which he slept thus so as not to see a dream, and it was necessary for him comparing the other nights and days, the ones of his own life, with this night, then it would be necessary for him, looking carefully, examining it, to say how many days and nights he had lived in his own life, but better and more sweetly than this night, that is the night when he has no dreams. And I would think that me hoti, not only someone who was an idiotan, a private citizen, but it's almost even, but the great king himself would find these days, well, easy to count, perhaps easily numbered. In other words, there's a very small number of them, compared with the other nights and days. And if death is such a thing, then I say it is kerdos, a gain or a boon. Kai ga uden pleon hot pas chronos phinatai huto de enai he mianux. For all of time appears to be thus, nothing more indeed than one single night. So he says all of time appears to be nothing more than one night. E da hoion apodemesai estin hothenatos enthendi es alon topon kai lethe esti ta, and we get legomena and alethe in the next page, I think. So, but if, now the ow here probably on the other hand, or if on the contrary, death is like going on a journey, travelling, apodemia, to go on a journey or to travel, if it is like to travel there to another place, and now it's alethe estin ta legomena. Yeah, there was no alethe. The alethe was back there. I'll just refresh it there a bit. So what was it again? So if the things being said, that is by others, that is by the mysteries or by Orphics and so on, are true, that accordingly all the dead are there, what greater good than this would there be, O men of the judges? Agar tis aphikomenos eis haidu ap alages to ni ton fasconton dicaston anai. Hurese tus hos alethos dicastas hoi per kai legon te eke dicastain minos te kai radamanthus kai iacus kai triptolimos kai aloi hosoi turn hemitheon de kai oi egeneto ento hiautu bio ara fole an aa he apodemia. So if someone having arrived, now his usual expression, it's eis oikon, into the house of Hades, this is from Apolasso again, aorist passive, it's sort of having left behind, having been separated from these so-called, well, these judges, those claiming to be, these men here claiming to be judges. You can see the deictic here, he's pointing at them, even though they've probably left the court at this point. So having been separated from these claiming to be judges, he will find the dicastas, the judges, host. Now we're going to supply a participle here, I think ontas. So those, in reality, those who are truly judges, the very ones who also are said to judge there. Minos, or Minos, and Radamanthus, and Iacus, and Triptolimos, and all the others who were judges in their own lifetimes. It's in their own lifetime, singular, but we would say in their own lifetimes, were judges of the demigods. So these again, Minos and Radamanthus and Iacus are often mentioned as judges in the underworld, and Triptolemus, well, perhaps this also maybe a nod to the Eleusinian mysteries. So surely the journey would, would the journey then be so bad? It's a question here. So if they were the people judging you, would the journey be so bad? Or ao orphe sung genestai kai musaio kai Hesiodo kai Homero epi posso an tis dexite an humone. Or on the other hand, now this is idiomatic here, it's epi posso, for what price would any of you give? Normally decamai means to receive, but can have the meaning here to give or give in exchange for. I'll just translate it as give, is what all the commentaries seem to say. So, for what price would any of you give to meet with, to have fellowship with Orpheus and Musaeus and Hesiod and Homer? In some thought at the time, Orpheus and Musaeus were writers predating Hesiod and Homer. Ego men gar polakis ethelo tethnanai a taut estin alethe. For on the one hand, I think it's men's solitarium here. For I on the one hand often I wish to die if these things are true. You might have expected an arm here, but it's almost I would have been happy to die many times or often if these things are true. Epe emoi ge kai auto thou maste an ie he diatribe autothi hopoti en chukoimi palamede kai I antito telemonos kai atis alos ton palaion diakrisin adikon tethneken anti parabellon ta emautu pathe prosta ekanon. I might just pause there because another long sentence. But since the subject here is diatribe, diatribe, so debate or discussion. Since the discussion there would be amazing for me myself, it's fairly emphatic, I think here. It's for almost like for me personally, the auto I think we're to take with the emoi. So since the spending my time there rather than diatribe, it's discussion or perhaps almost spending my time there would be amazing for me myself whenever I might meet with Palamedes and Telamonian Ajax, and if any other of those who had died, so if there are anyone else of those, of the ancients who had died on account of unjust judgment. And then this is again to understand for me from back here, for me comparing the experiences of myself, so perhaps sufferings of myself, with those of them. Hos ego eimi. In my opinion, it would not be a ades, an unpleasant thing. It's alpha probative from that Haidamai root. It would not be an unpleasant thing, and indeed it would be the greatest thing to spend my time. It would be the greatest thing. Exotasdonta. It's testing or quizzing almost. So asking questions, interrogating, perhaps it's good, interrogating and inquiring, just as I have done so to those here, just as I have engaged with those here. Engaged might be good with this one. So just as I have engaged with those here, as to who of them is wise and who knows, on the one hand, is knowledgeable, and who is not. Epi posso antis, this idiom again, o andres de castai, dexaito, exetasai ton epi troian agagonta, ten polin stratian e odosia e sisophon al alos murius antis epoi, kai andras kai gunaikas. Hois eke dialegesthai kai sun enai, kai exetasdain amekenon an ia eudaimonias. That's a question. So how much, O men judges, would someone give to question, almost interrogate, the one who had led the great army, the large army against Troy, that is Agamemnon, or someone might speak to Odysseus or Sisyphus or countless others, both men and women. So would it? So it would be. This is a tricky bit here. Amekenon. One translator has rendered this as an inconceivable degree of happiness. It's an unachievable thing. Would it not be an unachievable or inconceivable joy of happiness to debate or discuss with those there, and to spend time with them, and to interrogate them? Pantos ou depututu de heneca hoi eke apoktenusi ta dega ala eudaimonesteroi esin hoi eke ton enthadi kai eideton loi pon chronon athanatoi esin eper ge ta legomina alethe. Pantos ou dupu, nice combination of particles here, so it's something like surely at least, in each situation at least, so surely in there at least, for this reason, so for doing this, that is by spending time with and debating, those there do not kill. So something like surely at least those there do not put men to death on account of this, for this reason, that is for simply for debating and discussing things. And in other respects, those there are more happy, comparative there, than those here. And they are, at that time, they are immortal for all the remaining time. That if indeed, in fact, the things having been said, that is what the religious leaders and said, the things having been said are aletheia, are true. And that is the end of chapter 32.